Good evening, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the ARCA Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Colby Evans, aka Starting Parker, and boy, we have a big show for you guys today. One of the biggest shows of the year. It's also kind of a sad part because it means we're towards the end of the season, but still a very big show for you guys today. Going over two races, and we're previewing the main ARCA Series championship race, giving our championship picks. And, going over the battles we're going to see. We're going to go over the entry list, all the fun stuff you guys are used to on this great podcast. And, we're in for a fun show. We're going to do my quick little intro. And, of course, we will get right into it. So you guys know the drill. Of course, follow me on social media at Startin' Parker on Twitter. We just surpassed 3,900 followers. So, again, you guys are the effing best. Thank you for your support. Like and subscribe to the channel. You guys know the drill there too. TheRacingExperts.com, NASCAR man, Brock Beard, give them all love because they help make this show possible. All right, let's get right into it, shall we? No time to waste. So we will actually start off with the ARCA West race. So that way the main series ARCA, we can review the second one and then, of course, get to that preview show if that makes sense to you guys. So we'll start off with the ARCA West series. And first off, all I have to say is I am just happy we even had this big of an entry list. As we've seen this season, the ARCA West Series has struggled with their car counts, gotten as low as 39 this season. I wish 39, 13, I mean. 13 this season. The highest field we've seen has been 39, but that was a combo race at Phoenix. The highest West-only field, ironically enough, was Sonoma, and this past weekend's race at All-American Speedway was the second highest of the season with 22. So at least we could give somewhat positivity. Like right out of the gate, we're starting up with positivity. That's what I like to see with the ARCA West Series because, we'll admit it, there hasn't been a lot of positivity to say about the ARCA West Series. Not in terms of like the racing, just car counts. Car count positivity is always something we like to see in the ARCA Series. So we had a very, very solid entry list, including some great storylines. We had John and Cole Moore racing. I think that was kind of cool to see a father and son racing right there. RJ Smotherman was back with Blue Valor Whiskey Racing with two cars once again. David Smith was back after his car got hurt at Evergreen. Bradley Erickson was back for the first time since Irwindale. Sean Hingarani was driving the 19 this time for Bill McNally. Bill McNally with 5 entries in this race. Big race for Bill McNally. Brian Comiskey was back. Nick Jonides was back. Kyle Keller was back again. So, yeah, big field of drivers. And most notably, last year's winners, the Pedroncelli's team. The Startin' Parker, Paul Pedroncelli, and, of course, the full race with PJ Pedroncelli were back as well. So all those entries added up to a very big and solid field. And of course, you go to a track like All-American Speedway, it is so small. And I said this on last week's preview show that we were really in for an opportunity to have, a surprise winner. Maybe a winner we did not expect. Because let's face it, this season has been absolutely just dominated by Sunrise Ford. They've already pretty much, unless something absolutely drastic happens, like we're talking a first lap engine failure at both the Las Vegas Bullring and Phoenix, Jake Drew has the championship locked up. Unless something like that happens, like one lap engine failure, Jake Drew has that championship locked up. Practice results, obviously practice qualifying the way that ARCA West does it, not two separate ones. 90-minute session. 21 of the 22 cars took a time. The 31 of Paul Pedroncelli, the Startin' Parker, of course, he did get out on track, but of course he didn't complete his lap again. Per rules, you just have to start a practice lap. You don't necessarily have to complete it. They'd like you to complete it, but as long as you start a lap, you are classified, and that's kind of all you need. Other slowest was the 39 of Andrew Tuttle. That team has been really struggling with their car and the engine. Very, very slow lap time. Over almost 6.5 seconds off what the pole was. So clearly, I hate it for Last Chance Racing. Andrew Tuttle, they only got one car. Really trying their best out there, but man, times are really getting tough for them. Chris Loudon, Nick Jonides, RJ Smotherman, Brian Comiskey and David Smith kind of were bringing up the rear. Up front, shocker, who else would win the pole? I thought we were going to see someone new. Jake Drew, shocker, was on the pole, but not by much. In fact, the top 10, from pole sitter Jake Drew to 10th place Takuma Koga was only separated by just about 2.5 tenths. So that saw you right there. If you could get the setup right, and if you could get a certain car out front, more than likely they would have had the chance to probably lead this race. Now, to say well, if you put Takuma Koga out front, do you think he could have led this race? Yes. Do I think he could have led it for a long green flag run? No. But if it was for a 5-lap shootout, I think Takuma could easily have held his own there for about 5 or 6 laps. So yeah, great field. Joey East was second. I knew this was going to be one of the races where the Naki Kluwer team, this is where they really shine on these short tracks. Colmore was third. Tanner Reff was fourth. Landon Lewis was fifth. PJ Pedroncelli was sixth. Sean Hingorani was seventh. Bradley Erickson was eighth. Sebastian Rice was ninth. And, of course, Takuma Koga was 10th. Other notables, Kyle Keller was 11th. Todd Souza way down in 12th. That was a bit of a shocker. John Moore, considering that was a McAnally entry, shocker to see John down in 13th. So, and they did withdraw. John Moore was originally supposed to run the 24, but for some reason they switched it to the 27. Not entirely sure why. I'm not sure why the number changed, but either way, glad he was racing anyway. So we got the race underway. Our man, PR director, Charlie Crawl, was on commentary. Does a good job as always. And boy, was it just a caution fest. Got right out of Jake Drew, took the early lead over the 54 of Joey East. Lots of battling within the field, but didn't have time to really get going. Everyone barely got up to speed as within the first lap, the 19 of Sean Hingorani, who would go on to have a long night, would spin around for the first time. They got the track cleaned up again. Not much to it. Got back under green and lap number 8. And again, Jake Drew would get the lead. The one thing we've noticed, though, at a lot of these short tracks lately, I don't know if it's just maybe how some of these teams are setting their cars up, but the outside groove on restarts, apparently we've seen has now been, kind of the preferred groove. Tracks like Martinsville, tracks like, Winchester, tracks like Salem, tracks like All-American. Ironically enough, the outside is actually the best groove to start in. I don't know if it's just because you can throw it into turn 1 and maybe get a better launch off of 2, but it's kind of interesting. You'd think at short tracks, the best spot would be on the bottom. But, with a lot of these short tracks that we're seeing nowadays, it's just the car or the way the track's adapting to nature. But the outside line was definitely the preferred restart, not the preferred running area, but the preferred restarting position. I don't know why. Maybe that's just because you get the launch, but I like that aspect. So within 6 laps, they were running along until we had yet another caution. I'll be saying this a lot tonight with this race. The 88 of Bridget Burgess, it looked like that they had made contact with each other when in reality, the 88 of Bridget Burgess had spun around. I don't know if the 11 of Chris Loudon got loose or what happened, but either way, I don't know if he had nowhere to go, but he actually made contact head on with both cars. The 11 was absolutely destroyed, and the 88 suffered severe front-end damage, killing both the radiators and therefore killing both of their races very early, which is a shame because we know Bridget Burgess, despite having decent sponsorship, the Burgess Racing Team does not have a lot of funding and really a lot of cars. I think, 2 cars in the shop, so damage like this will definitely put that team far behind. And it sucks for Blue Valor Whiskey Racing. Chris Loudon, they've really tried to up that organization with some better cars. Again, it's just hard to get some great equipment out there on the West sometimes, with these other teams not really wanting to sell. So trying to build that program. Great team, great looking car. I would say the Blue Valor Whiskey Racing car is one of the best looking cars in the ARCA West Series. Hard to beat those Napa cars from Bill McNally, but definitely would say the Blue Valor Whiskey team, I think, is slowly but surely becoming a fan favorite. So that sucked to see both of their nights ended early, so very early. And actually, I forgot to even mention the 39 of Andrew Tuttle. He didn't even start the race. It was shown on the broadcast. He was pushed to the garage before the race even got started. So very early in the race, we had already lost 4 cars before lap 12. So that was a shame because, I was really excited about this big field. And before lap before lap 13, we'd already lost 4 cars. So that kind of sucked. But hey, that's short track racing. I mean, the fact that we didn't lose more is kind of a good thing. And after that, the 19 of Sean Hingorani got the free pass. We're able to finally put some laps together. Restart on lap 28. We actually had our first lead change of the race. Joey East was able to get by Jake Drew. Jake Drew did get the outside launch, but going off of turn 2, the 54 of Joey East was able to get clear of him. It was also at this point that the 33 of Pedroncelli went from 6th all the way to 2nd, which was pretty impressive. And for the first time really this season, we saw the Sunrise Ford entries show weakness. They were competitive, but at the same time, they were running about 4th or 5th, which ironically is about the lowest they'd been running in about the last 8 races. So definitely it was shown tonight that the Sunrise Ford entries could be beat. It was just a matter of who was going to do it. Was it going to be Joey East? Was it going to be Cole Moore? Was it going to be PJ Pedroncelli again? So it was going to be interesting for sure. But yeah, Joey East had taken the lead. PJ was in 2nd now. And then we had a good groove going there for about 22 laps. We were lapping cars, kind of left and right, a lot of the slower lap traffic. The 85 of Vince Little, who was just, with all due respect to Vince, he was all over the place. Takuma was getting lapped. Sebastian was getting lapped. David Smith was getting lapped. Nick Jonades was getting lapped. Comiskey was getting lapped. RJ Smotherman was getting lapped. So we were lapping quite a few cars here at this point. Not much to change up front because when you get lap cars in between 1st and 2nd, of course, it's kind of hard to make up that ground. Until we had yet another caution for, who guessed it, the 19 of Sean Hingorani. Kind of interesting thing I also noticed that the 19 was a Toyota. Bill McAnally Racing, of course, had announced that they were switching to Chevrolet. So I guess it's kind of weird to see that McAnally is still running Toyotas. But I guess, when you're running part-time cars, I guess it doesn't really matter as long as the Toyotas are being used for a part-time team instead of the full-time. So, yeah, that was kind of the fun little tidbit I noticed right there, that even despite the switch to Chevrolets, Bill McAnally is still fielding Toyota entries. He would actually get held for a couple laps for purposely bringing out the caution. So that was interesting. It was just a rough night for Sean. It really was. He didn't even return to the track. They discovered some problems in the rear. He didn't even get back out on track until it was about 10 laps down. So, yeah, the 85 of Vince Little was a free pass on that caution. And basically, not much to say about the next 20 laps because basically the average green flag run for the next 25 laps was about 3 laps. Coming back after this caution, 3 laps, and then the 80 of Brian Comiskey would spin. 2 laps later, the number 27 of John Moore would spin. 9 laps later, the 80 would spin again. Oh, it's like we were just going back and forth with who wanted to spin. Coming off of that 27 spin on the lap 67 restart, we actually had our next lead change of the race, which would be Cole Moore. He would take the lead, and he would hold it for a pretty long period of time. He would take the lead, and then we had, of course, that other crash with the 80. And then, like what we had earlier in the race, we still had 18 left on the track. And by this point, all the cars that had went a lap down actually got their laps back. So at the point of lap 105, all remaining cars on track were still on the lead lap with the exception of the 19. So that's kind of interesting right there. Lap 80 to 104 was our next 25-lap green flag run. Again, not much happened. We had a couple more cars go laps down. Had some tight battles throughout the field. The 33 was getting knocked over the place. He actually got run into the wall by the 9. Wasn't really shown on camera. I had to go back and replay that. The 99 was running about 3rd. Even the 13 or the 12 of Todd Souza. Is it the 13? It is the 13. I don't know why I got that confused. 13 of Todd Souza. He was struggling really all night. He still got a top 5 finish at the end of the night. Spoiler. But definitely not one of Todd's stronger performances, which is weird because at a track like All-American Speedway, I would have expected Todd Souza to be more competitive. And then on lap 105, we had our next caution. 3rd incident of the night for the 80 of Brian Comiskey. It was a rough night for poor Brian. He got turned by the 77 of Nick Jonades. No damage to either car, but again, just kind of rough. 3 cautions in the last 4 for the 80 car. got to wonder, there were no mandatory pit stops in this race. So is this poor 80 guy even going to have any tires left? Because I'm sure they probably flat spotted a couple of them. So poor Brian Comiskey. Again, 3 laps later, another caution. The 4 of Sebastian Arias spins around. And then, who guessed it? 3 laps later, another caution. This time for a real second incident of the race. The 85 of Vince Little, who just seemed to spin out all over the place. No real replay of what happened, but my guess was as the 85 of Vince Little spun and the 7 just had nowhere to go. Because based on the damage of what we saw on the cars, Vince Little had big damage to the door of his car. So that had to tell me that maybe he was sitting in the middle of the track and the 7 just rammed him. Either way, the 85 was actually fine. He kept running, but the 7 of Takuma Koga, his night was killed and it was over. We would get back going green again. It was at this point that the 6 of Jake Drew had retaken the lead, and it looks like we were going to get yet another Sunrise Ford victory. Then once again, though, on the lap 135 restart, we were able to get yet another lead change. The 99 of Cole Moore was able to get back in front of him very quickly, as just 2 laps later, we had our arguably the biggest moment of the race. The 33 and the 16 made contact with each other in turn 4, and 33 of PJ Pedroncelli and the 16 of Landon Lewis crashed out. Now, notably, what happened in this crash was a little confusing. The 85 of Vince Little, who spun for about the 9th time in the race, it felt like, he was just getting his car going off of turn 4. And props to Charlie Crawl for trying to explain it the best he could. And I have to agree with him with probably what happened, that the 33 spotter said slow car up ahead. PJ lifted off the throttle. Unfortunately, the 16 didn't get that message. And the 16 just kind of barreled into him by accident. Landon is not a dirty driver, so that would no way was that on purpose. And it's just a bad case of wrong place, wrong time is what I'm trying to say. So hate it for PJ because, again, that's a family-owned team, and they've had a rough season, to be honest with you. After competing for the championship last year, PJ's team has had a rough year. They've had to skip a couple races. They did announce on their Facebook this is the last race of the season for the Pedroncellis. They will not be at Phoenix like I thought they would be, but they will be back full-time in 2023. So that set us up for an 8-lap green flag run to the finish. At this point, with so many competitive cars getting knocked out, we actually had some very surprising top 10 runners right now. We had RJ Smotherman in the top 10. Nick Jonades was in the top 10. David Smith was in the top 10. Kyle Keller, he was up to 5th. So we had some very good cars that you would not have expected to be in the top 10, running in the top 10. And it was great to see. So anyway, we had that 8-lap dash to the finish. Cole Moore was easily able to shake Jake Drew from his tail and pretty much just held the lead straight from there. Not much happened in the last couple laps. Joey East couldn't do anything in 3rd. Todd Souza was able to get up to 4th. Kyle Keller stayed in 5th. Tanner Rev didn't even get a top 5 finish. A little surprising right there. And Cole Moore, finally, after all this time, gets his first career ARCA West win after dominating the Bill McAnally Drivers Academy a couple years ago. And yeah, huge congratulations to Cole Moore. I had no idea he grew out his hair. No idea he had grown out his hair. So when he got out of the car, I'm like, that's Cole Moore? I hadn't seen him in a long time. So no idea he had long hair. It looks good on him. It does look good. Jake Drew was 2nd. Joey East was 3rd. Todd Zuz was 4th. Kyle Keller was 5th. Tanner Rep was 6th. RJ Smotherman, 2nd career start, career best finish of 7th. John Moore's return to the series ends up 8th. Brian Comiskey, who spun 5 times and still ended up 9th. Nick Jonades for PP1 Motorsports. They came back to get a top 10. David Smith was 11th. Bradley Erickson was 12th. Sebastian Arias was 13th. Vince Little was 14th. And the final finisher was Sean Hingorani in 15th. 15 of the 22 starters finished. I would show you guys the points. I'll tell you guys the points, but it's not much of a battle. With 2 races to go, the championship is all but locked down. Like I said, really, it really is worst case scenario for Jake Drew not to win this championship. 51-point lead over Colmore, 58-point lead over Tanner Reff, 64-point lead over Todd Souza, and fifth place Joey East is 89 points behind. I mean, it really would take an absolute just disaster for Jake to lose the championship. And I don't expect that to happen because Sunrise Ford builds very, very good race cars. So I'm excited for Jake Drew. It's great to see Sunrise Ford get another championship after we all know what happened to them last year with that just heartbreak of losing it on the last lap. So, you could say, well, don't jump the gun, but I mean, with a 51-point lead, what do you expect? He could clinch the championship next week. He could. If he leaves Las Vegas with more than a 50-point lead, he will clinch the championship because I think the maximum starting field we can have at the Phoenix West race, I believe, is only 36. So there is a clinching scenario for Las Vegas, and that's definitely what Jake Drew and that team want to do. So that's the ARCA West race. I wanted to get that race out of the way first. And now we move on to the second race that happened on that Saturday, which was the Salem race. Salem, which is one of my favorite tracks in all of ARCA. Next to Winchester, probably two of my favorite short tracks. And oh, so badly do I wish we could race the trucks there. I know the tracks themselves aren't in the greatest of shape. I mean, Salem, you could argue it's not physically, it's not in the best of shape. It's probably the best it could be in. But God, a truck race at Salem or a truck race at Winchester, even an Xfinity race. Imagine an Xfinity race at Winchester. That would be awesome. I love Winchester so much. Absolutely love that track. So we had, sorry, I got a little ahead of myself there, guys. So yeah, this was race number 18 of the 20. And race number 19 of, God, I'm jumping all over myself. Race number 19 of 20 in the ARCA Menard Series 2022 season. We had a very solid entry list, 20 cars, one of the smaller entry lists this season, but for a track like Salem, it's understandable. This track is very, very difficult to drive. If you miss the setup by even just a little bit, you will have a really, really rough day. So yeah, we had 20 cars, practice results. Some notable struggled in practice. Amber Balkan, they had steering issues and maybe some engine issues in that car from what I was hearing. She only ran 7 laps, so she was only 19th quickest. And Richmond Racing's really been going through a rough patch. With the crash at Iowa, the crash at Salem. Tim Richmond was supposed to drive Salem. But unfortunately, he crashed in practice. Pretty rough crash. The car was pretty badly damaged. And I don't know how many cars Richmond Racing has left in their stable. I know their Toyota, they sold to Peterson because that's the car that Nate Moeller ran. So, man, and it sucks to see because, David and Tim Richmond are good friends of mine. Worked with them when they were affiliated with Wayne Peterson. So it really sucks to see. Now, I don't think the car was necessarily totaled, but it's definitely going to need a lot of work. And I don't know how many crew members are necessarily on that Richmond Racing team that'll be working on that car viciously. But I do know they still have the former David Gilliland car, so more than likely we will see him at Daytona next year. But as for other races, that will remain to be seen. So that sucked right there that we were already down a full race car, which took the entry list down to 19. And it's kind of a good thing that Peterson brought the 0 because they were able to then simply renumber the 0 to the 06. So that way that 06 car could still get owner points for the event. So smart thinking by Peterson to bring the 0 because you never know what's going to happen. Anyway, in practice, shocker, that up and coming team, Kyle Busch Motorsports. What a joke by Drew Dollar. I don't know if you guys saw Drew Dollar's tweet. I really hope you guys did. Drew Dollar tweeted out saying the Underdogs, KBM, in their first season going up against Venturini. I audibly laughed. I thought he was serious for a second, but I should have known he was kidding. That was pretty funny. But yeah, that up and coming team, Kyle Busch Motorsports, shocker, were fastest with Sammy Smith. Not by much though. His in practice. Jesse Love in the 20 tied. One of the few times you'll actually see a tie in ARCA. They both ran the exact same lap, a 17:29, and the exact same speed, 1:15.551. I will say some of the shockers of practice. Connor Jones in third, number 15 Venturini car, and one of my favorite underdogs in all of ARCA, Will Kimmel, number 69 Ford. He was fourth, but honestly, at the same time, is it really a shocker? I mean, Will Kimmel runs Salem just so many times, whether it be in his Gen 4 cars, doing those lower tier races, his street stock, actual ARCA races. I mean, Will Kimmel, he has done just so many laps at Salem, so it's not shocking. And, that team puts 100% effort into that race. The best motor they got, more than enough tires. They bring on plenty of sponsors. So it was really, really great to see the 69 showing just amazing speed. And it really shows that if that team got the sponsorship that they needed, Will Kimmel could be a championship contender. There's no doubt in my mind he could. Unfortunately, without Scott Melton's sponsorship dollars, Kimmel Racing might not even be in business right now, or they might even just be a couple race year team. So as much as we sometimes crap on Scott Melton, I know a lot of people do for some reason. I don't know why. Scott Melton's a great guy, but he does get some hate. Definitely, it's great to see that team still out there and plugging away. Rev teammates, 5th and 6th. Nick Sanchez was 5th. Raja Caruth was 6th. Daniel Dye was down in 8th. Landon Huffman, who was driving for the combination of Jeff McClure and Andy Hillenberg, was 9th. That was great to see. And Greg Van Oust was 10th. Qualifying fared a little bit better for some teams. Again, not a shocker, though. Because Taylor Gray, he went all the way from 9th up to 2nd in the qualifying charts. But there was no shockers who was on the pole. Sammy Smith was on the pole by over a 10th. Clearly was going to be, once again, the car to beat. Raja was 4th. Nick Sanchez was 5th. Daniel Dye was 6th. Will Kimmel was 7th. Connor Jones was 8th. Landon Huffman was 9th. And Greg Van Oust was 10th. Amber Balkin, Nate Moeller did not make a qualifying lap. And our man Brad Smith was slowest in 17th. Also, big shout out to Alex Clubb. Unfortunately, this race is usually classified as a throwback event. But with the lower car counts, I think they may have just stopped doing that, which sucks because I think, Salem really is the Darlington for ARCA. And I enjoyed seeing those ARCA teams running throwback paint schemes. I think my favorite was still when the old Cunningham Motorsports team ran like Alan Kowicki throwback. That was pretty cool. But yeah, it was shaping up to be a very, very tight race between the championship contenders. But it definitely looked like that the 18 was just going to be a dominant tear. And spoiler alert, he was. The race got started right as the Xfinity race got going, but I decided to watch the ARC race instead. And, kind of a spoiler alert, no on-track cautions. Shout out to everyone on track for not crashing into each other. And the only cautions for the race were actually the 2 race breaks. So that's a little bit of a spoiler. So the race got going. Sammy Smith got out front. After 1 lap, the 06 of Nate Moeller parked it. We'll get our start and parks out of the way. After 10 laps, the 01 of Tim Monroe parked it. Jesse Love, he fell down. Taylor Gray was in 2nd. Jesse Love fell all the way down to about 6th. Will Kimmel quickly made his way up into the top 5. So did Daniel Dye. So did Raja Caruth, showing a lot of speed. But at the end of the day, it was very early. It was going to be seen that the 18 of Sammy Smith was going to be the car to the beat, pulling over a 2-second lead at one point at Salem. And a 2-second lead at a track like Salem is just so impossible to do. So when you can pull a 2-second lead at a track like Salem, that really shows you got a great car under you. And I think it just goes to show, you look at teams like Venturini, they produce A+ equipment. And you look at KBM Joe Gibbs, A+ ARCA equipment. And I just think it's a case of just like Ty Gibbs, we have a natural talent, Sammy Smith. You give him a good enough car and look what he can do. I don't think it's just a case of, it's just the best car out there. Venturini and Gibbs, you could believe it. They have plenty of money to sink into those programs. I think we just like Ty Gibbs, we have yet another natural talent in Sammy Smith among us. And it's great to see, especially considering he's a fellow Iowan like myself. But yeah, so they quickly were lapping cars. I mean, obviously with just kind of like Darlington, this track eats up tires like crap. So we were quickly lapping cars. The 12, the 10, the 11, the 48, the 03. With all due respect to Alex Clubb and our man Brad, it felt like they were getting lapped literally every 5 laps, it felt like. So yeah, they were lapping up cars pretty quickly. We lost a couple of cars. Again, no one was really crashing into each other. Sammy Smith was pulling out to a huge lead. It was kind of mainly a battle for second. We had the 20, the 69, the 17, the 6, and the 2 pretty much right together in a clump. And they pretty much ran that way the entire time, trading positions back and forth. Will Kimmel had a long-run car. So did Nick Sanchez, whereas it shown that Caruth and maybe Jesse Love had short-run cars. And maybe Taylor Gray's car was just kind of there. Didn't really get worse. It didn't really get better. That's just kind of how I interpreted it for most of the time that they were on track. It was also at this point we fast forward 50 laps into the race. We had already lapped up to 6th, 7th place. And I'm thinking, we're going to lap the championship contenders at this point. I was really concerned that we were going to end up lapping the championship contenders. The 2 of Sanchez did not go a lap down, but the 43 of Daniel Dye did before the race break. And I'm like, man, that would absolutely kill Daniel Dye's chances, being a lap down. And he had just passed the 18 of Sammy Smith, had just passed the 15 of Connor Jones with about 5 laps to go. But shout out to Daniel Dye, was able to catch and pass the number 15 of Connor Jones, and was able to pass him and get the free pass. So that pretty much saved his race. Absolutely pretty much saved his race. So yeah, at the end of the first race break, again, Sammy Smith had led every lap. Really, it wasn't much to report. I mean, he was just dominating, and it really was a battle from 2nd to about 6th. So we got racing in the second race break. By then, we had lost the 12 of Zachary Tinkle. I do believe it was a start and park to 12. So we were down to 16 cars. It was also at this point that the 44 of Landon Huffman, who I felt really bad for, he was running as high as 7th. He had hit the wall with another lap car. He was struggling out there. He wasn't running as good as he was. And he would fall out of the race just coming to the second break, unfortunately, with a suspension failure. No real change in the second race break, except Will Kimmel was just shot out of a cannon. I mean, he got up to 5th, then he got up to 4th, then he got up to 3rd. Will Kimmel was running as high as 3rd and was nearly challenging for 2nd place. I was losing my mind. I didn't think he would have a chance to win that race, but man, Will Kimmel getting a top 3 finish, just sign me up, man, because I love that team, and it's great to see a team like that. And they're running a red chassis. How many times do we get to see colored chassis in racing nowadays? Obviously, the next gen car doesn't allow that. I don't think the NASCAR even allows that in Xfinity or Truck Series anymore. I think the last team to run a colored chassis was MBM's yellow car. But it's great to see a colored chassis back in the sport. I don't know if you guys picked that up either. I love that. I love that red chassis that Kimmel was running. Again, no real change up front. Sammy Smith just dominating, doing what he does best. It was also at this point, though, that we did notice some issues for the 6 of Raja Caruth. Definitely not as strong as we predicted. And, it's kind of the one thing I've been hard on him this season. Rev has really struggled at these tracks. Not necessarily Sanchez, but Caruth. At Iowa, Elko, Berlin, he's getting top 10 finishes, but he's finishing laps down. And that's the telltale sign right there. And, it kind of was happening at the same time at this track. Come to the lap 2 break, I think Caruth was almost approaching 2 laps down. Looks like an update from Zachary Tinkle, who's in the chat. Did do a start and park at Salem. Andy had me run a different car with an experimental setup for his program in 2023. So that tells you right there, for all the people who who crap all over fast track racing, Just because that team does not have the funds to run, top 3 every week doesn't mean they're trying their best to find setups to run top 10, top 5. Andy Hillenburg's out there to race. He's not out there to ride. There's a difference between riding out there and racing. Andy's there to race. I hate seeing that team get so much hate, which is just unwarranted because Andy Hillenburg's just awesome. Awesome guy. But yeah, going back to Caruth, he was going close to 2 laps down, and had that lap 2 break not saved him, he very well would have went 2 laps down. So we come back from break 2. The 15 of Connor Jones was a free pass. So at the start of break stage 3, we only had a whopping 7 cars on the lead lap. At that point, we would lose the 44 of Landon Huffman. They would retire due to that suspension issue. Raja Caruth, who was very, very slow on track early in the break 3, it would be discovered he would have a suspension failure. He would be on and off pit road a couple of times before retiring himself, finishing 15th. So we were down to 14 cars. Brad Smith, Alex Clubb were just, with all due respect to them, they were very, very slow. Brad was in and out of the pits as well. Alex, he was going laps down. The 11 of Ed Pomp, I felt bad for him. He had to go behind the wall for a couple laps. They lost about 15 laps. Really costed them a top 10 finish because with all the attrition rate that happened, more than likely Ed would have ended up either 8th or 9th instead of 11. So that's kind of a tough break for them. But it did launch Bryce Hodgeberg up into the top 10. 38 laps to go. The 15 of Connor Jones, he also retired from the race. He slapped the wall pretty good. So that was, again, another retiree. So even with just about 20 laps to go, we only had 13 cars out there. Now, at a track like Salem, even though it's kind of a small track, it's pretty much they still get spread out. And that's kind of what was happening. In that last run, the 69 of Will Kimmel was not as strong as he was in that second run. That kind of just said the car was too tight. But Daniel Dye definitely was making a charge. And Nick Sanchez, for whatever reason, could not get past Will Kimmel. And props to Will Kimmel for not just letting him go. I mean, he easily could have because, Nick's racing for a championship. But Will is out there, number one, for purse money because, you don't get much and every dollar counts. And number two, it's just, Will wants to get a good finish. So props for Will not laying over to the championship car and really out there for himself. And that's what I appreciate. I mean, I know sometimes, you got to do the gentleman's thing, but, you're out there to race, man. And you're not in the championship, you don't care about them. So, yeah, Nick Sanchez was stuck in 6th and nearly went a lap down. Wasn't really reported on the broadcast because they were too busy focused on the top 2. But the 17 of Taylor Gray absolutely the 17 of Taylor Gray would actually hit the wall, I believe, in the last run and had a tire starting to go down. That is why he went from 3rd down to 5th. He went from 3rd down to 5th. I don't know if you guys really noticed that. I didn't even notice that until the checkered flag threw. That he had actually went from 3rd to 5th, and that Daniel Dye had actually passed Will Kimmel. So that actually launched Daniel Dye up into 3rd, really gaining a lot of points on Nick Sanchez. And while all this was happening, Sammy Smith once again, flag to flag, shocker. Kyle Busch Motorsports and Sammy Smith win yet another race. Sammy Smith's 5th win of the season. Just a very impressive effort by that organization. I mean, again, you can say what you want, how Sammy Smith really should be. Sammy Smith really should be the champion. But at the end of the day, age restrictions are there for a reason. Whether we like them or not, you guys can complain about them all you want. Age restrictions are there for a reason. And in my opinion, I agree. Nobody, unless it's a test, nobody under 18 should be running a sanctioned event at Daytona. I can agree with that. Now, if you're 16, 17, and you're doing the Daytona test, that's fine. That's fair. We've seen that before. Unless you're Taylor Gray and you record yourself going down the backstretch. Don't do that. Don't do that. Shout out to anyone who actually remembers that. The race itself, again, I've said it before. This is coming from a huge ARCA fan. Not every race is going to be a banger. Not every race is going to be 100% entertaining. I can't say this was still a bad race, but was it a great race? No. I'm not going to say this was a great race. mainly because, when you have a flag-to-flag guy leading, I don't want to say that makes it boring, but it just kind of takes you want to be able to have competitors for the win. And let's face it, nobody was even going to go up there and catch him, not even catch him. So, but was it still a race that had a lot of attrition, had a lot of moments in his race that could have been, that were entertaining to some aspects? Absolutely. Will Kimmel running good, Daniel Dye trying to come back from a lap down, getting his lap back, and gaining points on the championship. Yes, those are the aspects of the race that I actually liked. So if you want to give me my usual out of 10 scale, I'll give this a 6. I'll give this a 6. I think that's fair. Not perfect, not great, good. We'll call it a good. We'll call it a good. And again, yeah, shout out to Daniel Dye. I mean, he really ran his heart out there, going from a lap down to actually finishing ahead of Nick Sanchez and narrowing that gap to a whopping, I think, 2 points? So the official results for the race were Sammy Smith was first, Jesse Love was second, Daniel Day was third, Will Kimmel was fourth, Taylor Gray was fifth, Nick Sanchez was sixth, Greg Van Oss was seventh. The ladies had a pretty good run. Tony Breidinger was eighth, Amber Balkin was ninth, and Bryce Hodgeberg was 10th. Good old Ed Pompa was 11th, Alex Clubb was 12th, Connor Jones was 13th, Brad Smith 14th, Raja Caruth 15th, Landon Huffman 16th, Zachary Tinkle was 17th, Tim Monroe 18th, and Nate Muller 19th. So that was your finishing order. Again, our point rundown for this race. It is so close. And man, I tell you, I'm a little sad. I enjoyed Kansas being the finale, mainly because it's a race I could go to. I was always at the championship finale for ARCA. But let's face it, with where ARCA is right now, a mile and a half just isn't the right place to settle a championship. A short track is the rightful place to settle this championship. And I'm very happy that we're settling at a track like Toledo, where I don't want another Stenhouse Scott Speed. I don't think we're going to see that. But Toledo's the perfect place for a series like ARCA to end their championship. And I'm glad we're back there. And especially with a heck of a battle. I mean, Jesus, guys, literally 2 points between Nick Sanchez and Daniel Dye. I mean, it's going to be so close out there, and you got to wonder, well, Daniel Dye does not have a teammate out there. Raja Caruth, what will he be doing out there? Will he play blocker? A lot of great storylines. Raja still sits third with only 24 cars for that race. He is mathematically done. He is stuck in third. Greg Van Oss is still fourth in points. He is 1 point ahead of Sammy Smith. Likely will overtake him at this race, and Sammy will finish fourth in points. Tony Breidinger is sixth. Amber Balkin is seventh. Brad Smith is eighth. Taylor Gray is ninth. Jesse Love is 10th. Our man Zachary is still holding on to 11th. And that is not only, ironically enough, that is not only the only battle that is going to be taking place. You thought the Drivers' Championship was close. Like we mentioned earlier, the Owners' Championship is even closer. The number 18 of Kyle Busch Motorsports, by virtue of their win at Salem, have taken the lead in the Owners' Championship. The first time this season that the ARCA Owners' Championship has changed hands. The lead has changed hands. The 20 is no longer leading. That is a lot of pressure on Jesse Love, because that's what Venturini has won a lot, and I mean a lot, of Owners' Championships. And that's really what they go for. I mean, the Drivers' Championship, you could say, is kind of a bonus. But the Owners' Championship, that's really where the money is in ARCA. And that's what they want to win. A 1 point lead over the 20 of Billy Venturini's car. Everyone else is mathematically out. So not only do we have a very fierce battle for the Drivers' Championship, we have an incredibly fierce battle for the Owners' Championship as well. Man, it's like, what a great way to go into the final race. 2 championships separated by a combined total of 3 points. Man, that's what I love to see. And, I mean, not to take a dig, but we did all of this without a playoff format. It shows how fun it can be when we just let the season go the whole distance without any format changes. Shocker, huh? We don't need a playoff format to have an interesting championship. Who knew? I'm sorry. That's just a little dig right there. I'm not a big fan of the NASCAR playoff system. I'm sorry. I'm just not. And also for the ARCA Owners Championship, we do have some interesting battles within that as well. Coming into this race, mathematically, the top 20 bonus right now, actually, it's been a pretty close battle, but it looks like the 44 of Jeff McClure will claim that bonus, being the top 20 final entry. Everybody else above, of course, will make it. Still, the coveted top 10 in owner points. The last spot is held by Mark Rett's 30 car. They have confirmed that position. Unless something absolutely drastic happens, the 12 of Hillenberg will not pass that car. So, God, if we had to pick championships, again, this kind of, basically this kind of just goes right into our Toledo preview. So I guess, yeah, we're kind of getting into our Toledo preview. Our entry list, 24 cars, like I said earlier. I'll go through the whole entry list right here. Got the 0 of Nate Muller, 2 of Nick Sanchez, 6 of Raja Caruth. A little bit of a different look for Andy Hillenberg's team. Tony Cosentino in the 10. Love Tony. Brandon Varney in the 11. Our man Zachary in the 12. Landon Pemilton is back in the 15. Taylor Gray, of course, in the 17. 18 of Sammy Smith. 20 of Jesse Love. 25 of Tony Breidinger. The 30 of Ember Balkin. 35 of Greg Van Alst. Nice Motorsports is back with Matthew Gould in the 40. Amber Slagle with Bruce Cook Racing is back in the 42. Good to see Amber back. Daniel Dye, of course, in the 43. The 44 of Grant Enfinger. Yes, Truck Series driver Grant Enfinger is back. And this is not an affiliated car with GMS. This is pure Jeff McClure equipment. Our man Brad Smith in the 48. Morgan Baird in the 55. How about that? Fast Track Racing driver getting a shot in the Venturini equipment. So that's great to see. Jeffrey Magzink, guy who usually drives Michigan every year. Good to see him back. Pizza Man, Andy Jankowiak in the 73. 0-1 of Tim Monroe. 0-3 of Alex Clubb. And great to see that the 0-6 of AJ Moyer, which means the Ford has been fixed from Bristol. So that's good to see as well. Solid 24 cars. Our starting parks will more than likely be the 0-1. And the 0. And Zachary, if you are still watching with us, could you confirm whether you are being a start and park or a full race entry? So, again, very solid field here. And you got to wonder, man, with just a 1-point gap, Venturini has 4 guns in this race. KBM has 1. What do we see? Zachary Tinkle does confirm they will be a start and park. So that 3 potential start and parks in this race. We got 21 going the distance. That's a good margin, good amount of cars. So, God, man, what do you call it? What do you guys think? Do you think Venturini is going to have a little bit of trickery up his sleeve with the 55, the 15, and the 25? We know that 18 is going to be tough to beat. Jesse Love, we know he's going to race his heart out. Venturini, I don't know if I would expect him, play real dirty, kind of like how Jim Smith did back in 2003 at Homestead with the Truck Series. But, God, I tell you, just if I was a KBM team, I'd be just a little nervous. I'm not going to lie, just a little nervous. The fact that our competition has 4 cars, we have ourselves. Kind of surprised that they don't have the 81 entered. I know Brandon Jones is busy this weekend, but there's, Corey Heim? You think they could have gotten Corey Heim to come out and drive the 81 for a race just to give them an extra bullet? So I don't know, man. I think that's going to be an interesting battle for sure. Sanchez and Dye. Now, of course, with guys like Jesse Love and Sammy Smith in the race, I don't think either of those guys will win the race. I think that'll pretty much be decided from about top 5, top 10. And, we've seen Toledo. It's gotten ugly before for the championship. Do you guys think it's going to get ugly for the championship? Because I think it will. I think very well. You can call them clean racers all you want, but at the end of the day, a championship is on the line. Championship is on the line. These teams have been battling so close all year round. I think Caruth is going to be a factor for sure. And I don't know. I just see this getting ugly. I really do. I don't think it's going to get 2008 levels of ugly, but I think it's definitely going to get a little bit ugly. And you know what? That's the fun part about short track racing. I just don't want to see a stupid fight. I don't want to see a fight. If we're battling on track like crazy, fine. I don't want to see a fight. I don't want to see a race fight. Yes, Zachary Tinkle, I absolutely agree. The Owners' Championship will probably get more ugly than the Drivers' Championship. And that's why I just can't wait for this race. It's going to be so weird on all aspects. What will Rev Racing do with 2 bullets versus GMS's 1? And what will KBM do against Venturini's 4 bullets? I love it, man. You wouldn't have this much anticipation, this much excitement, with all due respect, if the race was at Kansas. You wouldn't have that. And that's why I'm so excited for this race to be at Toledo. Absolutely. Zachary Tinkle says, part of the reason Andy wants me to start in park is because he doesn't want to be in the middle of championship shenanigans. Yeah. I don't blame you, Zachary. Yeah, we don't want to see an innocent lap car or anyone else get taken out for sure. Zachary needs 23rd for 9th in points. Hey, how about that? Yeah, that'd be great if our man Zachary could get 9th in points for sure. Obviously, the reason why he's doing the start in parks, trying to save the money for next season. That's understandable, Zachary. We love you, man. Of course, we want what's best for you. And we know you got the talent, but it's understandable. Nice Motorsports, again, at the end of the day, they are a fellow Chevrolet team. Could we see maybe them help out GMS Racing? I know that'd be, maybe a little far-fetched, but at the end of the day, Chevrolet teams work together. Toyota's already clinched the Manufacturers Championship for ARCA, so that ain't going to be doing anything. Ken, the winner of the Shorelands 200 mathematically will receive 47 points, 43 for finishing first, 3 bonus points for winning the race, and 1 bonus point for leading a lap. There will also be numerous bonus points available for the driver who wins the General Tire Pole Award and for who leads the most laps. If bonus points were not a factor in this race, Daniel Dye would simply need to finish 3 positions better than Nick Sanchez to steal the championship. But the bonus points are a complicating element in this scenario. So I don't necessarily, again, think the bonus points will come into play. Like I said, I think the battle for the win will definitely come down between the 18 and the 20. I think the 43 and the 2, this is when you put your best damn Ilmore motor you got in that car. GMS, you bring your truck guys. You bring your truck crew chiefs. You put the best damn setup you could possibly put in there. So, but the problem is, KBM, they're going to bring down their Joe Gibbs Xfinity guys. They're going to bring down, the best crew chiefs, the best setup they can get. You are going to see 2 hooked up race cars. I'm just saying, when it comes to that 18 and 20, you are going to see 2 hooked up race cars. Absolutely the best in the business. And that's what I still love about this series, because you don't see that in the Cup Series because it's kind of parts. But you build these cars and you just build them with a passion. And that's what I love about it. Venturini rumors true ? In the chat. Could you elaborate on that? I don't know about that. But yeah, just a wild race. And then, you're going to have your lap cars out there. I believe it's the 10 and 11, which will be going the distance for Hillenberg, the 0-1. Then the 12 will be starting parking the race, along with the 0. 0-6 will go the whole distance. We know Brad will go the whole distance. He did tell me that back at Kansas. So you will have some straggler lap cars out there. So it's going to be a very complicated. Even 21 full race cars at a track like Toledo is going to be very complicated. So yeah, it's just going to be wild. It is absolutely going to be wild. I am there for it. I'm excited for it. The only thing about this race I am not 100% excited for, and you know what? It's nothing I can't help, and it's nothing the series can help because it's been like that for a long time. I posted the payouts yesterday, $13,875 for first, $6,000 for second, $4,350 for third, 14th through last place, just $1,000 with the $200 bonus paid out to the top 20 finishers. So wish the payouts were a little better, but again, I've griped about that for 10 years now. Nothing's going to change. It's okay. I've accepted it. It's just a small little dig, but at the same time, I think we've all complained about the payouts. It is what it is. We can complain all we want, but at the end of the day, it's been like that for a long time. And again, I've kind of accepted it. I've talked with Charlie about it at the track, and maybe it's one thing we kind of disagree on, but other than that, I consider Charlie Crawl a close friend, and it's great that we got a guy like him running the PR division, because Charlie definitely does a great job. But yeah, guys, in case you're wondering, Saturday, October 8th, of course, you guys know the drill. Wish this was a night race, but I'm not even sure if Toledo has lights. Saturday, October 4th, 4 p.m. Eastern, so that means 3 p.m. MAV TV or Flow Racing. Yes, I know it does suck that the ARCA Championship finale will not be on FS1. I know that sucks a little bit. I know that does suck a little bit, that the finale won't be on FS1, but that's okay. I do wish, though, man, if they did have lights for Toledo, why not run this race at night, man? Like, it's the same thing I said at Salem. Why not run that race at night? Salem is way better under the lights. So is Toledo. Again, it's just what they choose. I still think it's going to be a great race. And yeah, of course, if you don't have MAV TV, you can follow me, of course, for live race updates. I'll be glad to post them for you guys. And like I said, it's going to get ugly. We can all expect it. I'm just going to say right now, if it doesn't get ugly, I will be genuinely shocked. And trust me, I wish Kyle Busch was there, because I'm saying this. Kyle Busch versus Billy Venturini, that'd be one hell of a fight. That would be a hell of a fight. For some reason, I want to see it. I do, for some reason. Although, man, I tell you, if you had to go up against Mark McFarland, good luck with that. Mark McFarland's a big dude, so I would not want to mess with him. Oh, God. I can't wait, man. You can see the excitement in my face. You really can. I'm genuinely excited for this event. And to end the show, he's been my championship pick since the first race of the season. Nick Sanchez is my guy. And as for the Owners' Championship, I'm going to say it's going to get ugly. I'm going with the 20 car. Those are my picks. So yeah, those are my picks. Sanchez for the championship, and I'm actually going to take the 20 car for the Owners' Championship. If you guys want to, you can put your picks in the chat or the comment section below. And yeah, we got ourselves one heck of a championship battle this weekend for ARCA, and just excited to see what 2023 brings. DGR has announced a lot of changes. They will be switching back to Toyota. So what does that mean for their ARCA team? GMS shutting down. I've heard a couple of rumblings of that. Is it true? Is it not true? We'll find out. But I think it's safe to say the landscape of ARCA will look a lot different in 2023 for sure. And I'm here for it. And hopefully you guys can be here with me. So I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's episode of the ARCA Racing Podcast. For your continued support, I much appreciate it. And enjoy the rest of your Wednesday night. Don't do anything too stupid now. And we'll catch you guys all maybe tomorrow for an episode of Backmarker Battles. I can't guarantee it. If not, you guys will definitely see me back here next week at some point. And yeah, signing off, guys. I love you. See you later.